All right, let's just jump right in with a pretty wild thought. Think about your computer for a second. What happens when it's running on old, buggy software? It lags, it crashes, it just doesn't work right. Well, what if our entire global system, everything from economics to politics to conflict, is running on exactly that, old, faulty code? Today, we're exploring a radical idea, what it would take to do a full-on planetary operating system reboot.
So, here's the thing. The core problem, the main system error, isn't that we don't actually have enough stuff. We've got plenty of food, water, and energy to create what the source material here calls an abundance reality for everyone. The real glitch in the code, it's the distribution system, it's the scarcity mindset that's just hardwired into how everything works. And that leads to a really powerful question, doesn't it? What if all this conflict and suffering, what if it isn't some deep, unfixable flaw in who we are as people? What if it's just a bug in our collective code? You know, a bug that we can actually find and patch and fix. So for the rest of this explainer, let's treat this like the ultimate debugging session. First up, Section 1, a critical system error. Before you can fix anything, you've got to run diagnostics. So let's get a clear look at what's actually broken in our current OS. And here is the proposed fix, laid out visually. On the left, you've got the old system, the one we're running now. It's extractive, it's inefficient, and it's just riddled with errors. But on the right, that's the reboot. It's a system designed to be regenerative, one that's built for everyone to flourish. The whole plan is about how we build the bridge to get from here to there. So that brings us to Section 2, the Planetary OS Reboot. Okay, so how does a reboot this massive actually work? Let's get into the nuts and bolts of this proposed new system. At the very heart of this new OS is a game-changing idea: peace for profit. Now, the idea is to stop treating peace like it's some kind of charity project that we hope for. Instead, you completely redesign the economic incentives to make stability and cooperation the most profitable thing you can possibly do. You're basically hardwiring morality right into the bottom line. And this whole thing is powered by what's called a flywheel, a compounding loop that just gets stronger and faster over time. It all starts with trust. Once you establish moral legitimacy, that attracts serious investment. That investment builds real infrastructure and creates local prosperity. Then, the profits from that get reinvested, which builds even more trust, and you can see how it starts to spin. This is key. It's a self-reinforcing cycle. And that's why getting in early matters so much. The sooner you join, the more momentum you add, and the bigger the returns are for everyone. On to Section 3, hardware, software, and trust. So just like any computer, this new planetary OS needs a few key components to run. You need the hardware, you need the software, and you absolutely need a layer of trust to hold it all together. So let's break that down. On one hand, you've got the hardware. This is the actual physical stuff, right? Autonomous transport, renewable energy grids, AI logistics, the foundation of a modern civilization. The source material even points to someone like an Elon Musk as the kind of architect you'd need for this. But then you have the software, and this is the ethical layer, the moral code that dictates how all that powerful hardware actually gets used. And you can see that vision right here. On the left, you've got the hardware alliance, the people who literally build the world. And on the right, you've got the heart of the software, something called the GENII intent engine. This isn't just about moving boxes from A to B more efficiently. It's a system designed to guide the entire network toward what's best for humanity. Okay, so let's talk about that trust layer. It's got a complicated name, PCMRI, but the idea behind it is actually pretty simple. It's all about what's called covenantal accountability. So forget the old model of just giving aid with no strings attached. In this system, you are rewarded for honoring your commitments, for keeping your promises, and if you break them, well, it becomes incredibly costly, both functionally and economically. It's designed so that cooperation isn't just a nice idea, it's a technical requirement. And you know what's really interesting? The foundational code for this whole thing, the system's BIOS, is incredibly simple. It's called the guilt-free standard, and it boils down to just 3 basic rules. Rule 1, do no harm. Rule 2, help if you can. And Rule 3, if you're not sure what to do, just ask. That's it. Everything else in the entire system flows from those 3 simple principles. Next up, Section 4, installing the first patch. All right, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds huge, maybe a bit abstract. So how in the world do you actually start installing a brand new OS on an entire planet? Let's get practical. Well, you start by patching the single biggest, most destructive bug in the current system, the one that causes so many other failures to cascade: hunger. The plan is to launch a proof of concept, a first mission, to prove that this new OS can actually work by tackling that one critical issue first. And this is what that first patch looks like. It's a perfect example of the butterfly effect, how a tiny action can create massive change. It all starts with something incredibly small, a single nutrient-dense miracle bar that helps stabilize one person's health. But that one small act of stability, it scales up. It leads to restoring land, building sustainable farms, and eventually creating entire communities that are totally self-sufficient. And get this, from day one, 50% of everything they produce is dedicated to feeding the hungry. The moral mission isn't some PR campaign or an afterthought. It is literally baked into the business model, into the economic engine itself. This is the tangible, living proof that the peace-for-profit model can actually work. Now for Section 5, the network and its viruses. So this brings up a really big question. What happens to the people or the countries that refuse to upgrade? I mean, every network has to deal with malware and viruses, right? This Planetary OS is no different. And the source material is pretty blunt about this. So who are the viruses in this system? Well, it's anyone who actively tries to block progress. It's the people who actually profit from the old, chaotic system. And it's anyone who simply refuses to play by the rules of accountability. They're just fundamentally incompatible with an operating system that's built from the ground up for cooperation. And this is where the cost of holding out becomes incredibly high. Think about it. When everyone's prosperity is connected through this shared, high-tech infrastructure, choosing violence means you are literally destroying your own economic engine. It stops being a strategic option. It becomes, as the quote says, self-inflicted economic ruin.
Let's stick with the computer analogy. In this system, conflict is treated like a virus trying to run on a shared network. The system doesn't just judge you morally, it penalizes you functionally. Your own processing speed slows down. You get cut off from the network's benefits, the resources, the trade, the data. So the longer you resist the upgrade, the more isolated you become, and the further behind you fall. It gets exponentially more expensive to hold out. And that brings us to our final section, your invitation to upgrade. After all this big picture, global thinking, the whole concept zooms right back in, down to you, the individual. It's basically an invitation to be part of the reboot. And the way you can participate is actually kind of gamified. There are all these different levels of engagement. You can start small, as a digital supporter, a Slacktivist, and find a clear path to level up, all the way to becoming an architect who is literally helping to build this new reality. The whole point is that there's a role for absolutely everyone. And here's the really clever part. The framework is designed to take something we all do, that passive digital noise, like a simple like or a share, and convert it into tangible, active equity. It means that even the smallest action you take gives you a genuine stake in the success of this new system. You're not just a spectator anymore, you're actually helping to fund the reboot. So this all leaves us with one final provocative question to think about. What we've looked at today is this massive, ambitious vision for a global upgrade, a path from the world of scarcity we know to one of potential abundance. So if and when the world reboots, what role will you play?